Welcome back, optimistic ladies and gentlemen, to another Fun Friday episode in this PTCGO series. Fun Friday is all about silly and fun deck ideas, and today we are going to play around with Aerodactyl from the Fates Collide expansion. We can bite our opponent's Pokemon for 30 damage with this colorless type Pokemon for just a colorless energy, or we can hit for a Jet Draft for 120 damage for a DCE and discard a special energy attached to our opponent's active Pokemon, which is pretty huge in the current format because there's quite a few decks out there which play special energies. Night March is one of them, but against Night March this doesn't matter because we knock out their Pokemon in one hit anyways. But there's also strong fighting decks which play strong energies. We can discard their strong energy, and then we also have resistance against those fighting decks, basically giving us 140 HP or the equivalent of that as long as we have not been attacked yet. And there's also things like Giratina with the double dragon energy. We can discard that double dragon energy from a Giratina, preventing it from chaos wheeling us, which we don't want to see because we completely rely on special energies ourselves. We play 4 DCEs to power up our Aerodactyl, and then 3 fighting energies in addition to that. Fighting energies to make use of Scorched Earth stadiums if we see them around, and also just to have some basic energies here. You never know when they can come in handy. Mainly they will be used for our Shuckle, but I will get into the Shuckle later on. Let's first take another look at our Aerodactyl. If you look at the top left here, you see it is not a basic Pokemon. Instead, it's a restored Pokemon. What does that mean? It means we cannot play down Aerodactyl from our hand onto our bench. Instead, we need to get out Aerodactyl in some other ways. One of them is using the Old Amber Aerodactyl card. Look at the bottom 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal an Aerodactyl you find there, put it onto your bench and shuffle your deck afterwards. So you can play down these cards, and then if you don't find an Aerodactyl, you can play another one because you shuffled your deck, meaning that you now have another chance of finding an Aerodactyl at the bottom of your deck to put it onto your bench. I play 4 copies of the Old Amber Aerodactyl because it's so important to get out the Aerodactyl onto our bench. And in addition to that, I play 2 fossil excavation kits as well. Put 2 in any combination of Helix Fossil Omanite, Dome Fossil Kabuto or Old Amber Aerodactyl, and that is what we are interested in, from our discard pile into our hand. So if we have played 2 of these cards, we can get them back using the Fossil Excavation Kit. I play 2 copies of the Fossil Excavation Kit. This basically makes it so that I can use 8 Old Amber Aerodactyl cards in one game, which should be sufficient for me to get out enough Aerodactyls onto my bench. However, there's also another method which we can use to get out the Aerodactyl, and that is using the Omastar with the Restoring Beam ability. Once during our turn, you may search your deck for a restored Pokemon, put it onto your bench and shuffle your deck afterwards. Once we have Omastar in play, we basically have unlimited access to Aerodactyl itself because we can put one onto our bench each and every turn. And what you typically see, or what I've typically seen on YouTube, is people building Archie's decks to Archie Omastar onto the bench. Archie's Ace in Hole, for those of you who don't know, allows you to put a water Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench and then draw 5 cards, but Archie needs to be the last card in your hand to do so. So you can Archie the Omastar onto your bench and then make use of its Restoring Beam ability, and all those decks revolve around getting off that Archie in their first turn because they don't typically play the Old Amber Aerodactyl, so they have to rely completely on the Omastar to get out their Aerodactyls, and I think that is a little bit dangerous. Getting off an Archie in a standard format is not easy anyways. If you fail it in your first turn, then you need to get it off in the second turn, and if you fail it then, basically is GG for you. It's also something which is hard to do under item lock, but fossil decks are hard to play under item lock anyways. So what I did is I went for a combination of the two. I went for an Archie's approach, but Archie is not going to be our main focus. We are just going to try to get out the Aerodactyl with our Old Amber Aerodactyl card. And if we get the chance to get off an Archie, we will grab it. We will put an Omastar on our bench so that we have unlimited access to our Aerodactyls and don't need to rely on our Old Amber Aerodactyl cards. anymore. You might be skeptical about this approach, but it actually worked quite well during testing, and that is why I am presenting this deck to you. It is a different kind of approach to the Aerodactyl deck than the approaches I have found online, so it's also interesting from that point of view just to have a different kind of approach. We are also going to be playing some other Pokemon to help us get the Aerodactyl out. Shuckle is the main one. Hide the berry, draw 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. Which means if we have an Aerodactyl in our hands, when we hit for the Hide the Berry attack, we can put this Aerodactyl on the bottom of our deck, and in the next turn we can use our Old Amber Aerodactyl card and get out the Aerodactyl that way. 3 copies of Shuckle. Shuckle is one of the Pokemons we want to start off with. It is a basic Pokemon, so we can start off with it in the active spot. Another one is the Carbink. If you are facing EX decks, we can promote the Carbink while we try to get out our Aerodactyl. Carbink protects us from damage from EX Pokemon from the opponent. And finally, I've also got a Seismitoad-EX in this deck. This is a card I haven't seen in any other Aerodactyl deck yet, but I think it is one of the cards that should be in here because we play DCEs, we rely on DCEs, and starting off with the Seismitoad is never really a bad thing unless you face maybe Mega Rayquaza EX or something like that. But for example, if you face Nightmarch and you start off with the Toad, you can item lock them, hope that they don't play too many Battle Compressors in their first turn, and you actually stand a decent chance against Nightmarch then. Finally, I also play 2 Shaymin. Shaymin is just here for draw support. We can also Sky Return if really necessary, but draw support is the main function of the Shaymin. Then let's have a look at the rest of the deck. As I said, the rest of the deck revolves around getting out our Aerodactyls. We play 3 Battle Compressors. The Battle Compressors have a double use. The first one is to discard the Omastar as well as the Archie. Then we can get back our Archie with a Via Seeker and Archie's Ace in Hole the Omastar onto our bench. The second use is to discard some Old Amber Aerodactyl cards. If we have a Fossil Excavation Kit in our hand, then we can get them back with this Excavation Kit and play them down during our turn to try to get out our Aerodactyl. Very, very useful card in this deck. Basically, any deck which includes an Archie's Ace in Hole card needs to run some Battle Compressors anyways. Then one Buddy-Buddy Rescue. Buddy-Buddy Rescue is helpful to get back some Aerodactyls in our deck, but also just to get maybe back a Shuckle from the discard pile if our active one was knocked out, so that we don't have to promote a Shaymin, for example, if Shaymin is the only Pokemon on our bench that's left. Moving on, we have got some draw support, 3 Sycamores for draw support, 2 N for draw support, pretty standard, and then 2 Lysandres. I think I need to show you something else before I talk about the Lysandres. Let's bring up the Omastar break. Omastar break, and I will turn the card around for you so you don't have to turn your head 90 degrees as I am doing right now. Dangerous Tentacle. Once during your turn, you may switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon EX with his or her active Pokemon. Any Aerodactyl deck I have seen has played Omastar Break. I do not play Omastar Break because I am not focusing on the Archie's Ace in the Hole. The other decks I've seen always focused on that Archie, on getting out that Omastar, but I do not. So Omastar Break is actually a card in my deck, if I put it in here, which is a dead card oftentimes in my hand. And instead, I am going to be playing the classic Lysandre to replace the Omastar Break. Omastar Break is very useful in combination with Aerodactyl because you can just use its ability to get a Shaymin from the opponent in the active spot, jet draft against the Shaymin and knock out that Shaymin for 2 easy prizes. That's basically what Aerodactyl is all about. It's all about targeting our opponent's Shaymin and taking 2 easy prizes as often as we can. But I went with the Lysandre approach because, as I said, I had consistency issues by including the Omastar Break, and especially because I don't focus on the Archie's approach. So Lysandre, it is 2 copies of Lysandre and also 1 copy of Target Whistle to target whistle our opponent's Shaymin back onto their bench once we have knocked it out and Lysandre it out once more. This is a card you typically see in a Night March deck as well, and it's also a strategy which you typically see in a Night March deck. Then we've also got a Hex Maniac to counter Greninja Break, to counter Vespiquen Vileplume, all of those Pokemon with pesky abilities. Giratina as well. If you face Giratina, we need our Hex Maniac so that we can attach our special energies to our Aerodactyl. What else is left? I think we are nearing the end of the deck analysis here. I included a couple of switching cards. We have an Escape Rope as well as a Float Stone to give us some flexibility. The Aerodactyl has free retreat, so we won't put a Float Stone on the Aerodactyl, but we will put it onto a Seismitoad-EX or the Shuckle. Shuckle 1 retreat cost as well as the Carbink. We could pay for that retreat cost, but we cannot pay for the Seismitoad-EX's retreat cost, nor should we ever try to pay for the Omastar's retreat cost if we've got it out, because it is a 2 retreat cost, which means we need to attach a DCE, and that's a complete waste of a DCE. Then I also play 2 Muscle Bands. Muscle Bands are the math fixers for us. We are hitting for 120 with a Muscle Band, that is 140. 140 is enough to knock out quite a bit of stage 2s. For example, the Delphox stage 2, we can knock it out with a Muscle Band. We can also knock out a Baby Yveltal with a Muscle Band. We can knock out, what else is there? Other 130 HP Pokemon like Garchomp, we can knock out with a Muscle Band. Without the Muscle Band, we hit for a 2-hit knockout. we want to avoid that, because we want to get our prizes as fast and as quickly as we can. And finally, 2 stadiums, 2 Skyfield stadiums. There's actually quite a variety of stadiums you can go for in the Aerodactyl deck, but Skyfield was my choice since I found myself filling up my bench pretty quickly. Funnily enough, you wouldn't expect it in a fossil deck, but actually the Old Amber Aerodactyls do hit quite often in the first couple of turns if you can spam them enough, which we can with our fossil excavation kit. And as soon as we've got the Omastar out, we fill up our bench so very quickly. And as well with the Shaymin, benching our Shaymin already takes up 2 spots. So Skyfield can be a clutch card to bench another Shaymin if you already have 5 Pokemon on your bench, for example. And that is going to be it, I think, for the deck analysis. I have talked more than enough. Maybe I should mention the Super Rods. Why 2 copies of Super Rods? Super Rods are going to be necessary to shuffle back our Aerodactyls once they have been knocked out. Near the end of the game, that can be really clutch. If you can shuffle back 3 Aerodactyls with your Super Rod while you have only like 15 cards left in your deck, then you can spam your Old Amber Aerodactyl cards basically for a 100% guarantee to get out those Aerodactyls back onto your bench. And now I'm gonna shut up for reals. I'm going to find us some opponents in the versus ladder and see if we can pull off some wins. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoy the battles, and click that subscribe button if you want to see more Fun Friday deck ideas on this channel. Chaska is going to be our opponent with a Metal, Lightning, Colorless and a Psychic deck. Hopefully my opponent plays Special Energies. Let's hope so. If he does not, if this is Mega Manectric, then I am not sure what we are going to do. Mega Manectric is such a tough matchup for us. We start off with a terrible hand, 2 Aerodactyls in our hands. That is not what we want to see. Luckily it's a mulligan, so we can reshuffle our hand back into our deck. But that gives my opponent an extra card, and mulligan is what we do with this deck. We only play 7 basics, so we mulligan most of the games at least once. Sometimes even twice. I think the most I mulligan so far is 5 times. That was a little bit awkward because I gave my opponent 5 cards in that game. And I believe that was against Mega Manectric actually. A game that I lost. It was actually quite close. It was quite close. But unfortunately my opponent had lots of Yes-Seekers at the end of the game to get back Hex Maniacs from the discard pile to knock out my Carbink. I was stalling with my Carbink in that game. And this is a much better hand, a Shuckle to promote into the active spot. What else do we get? Can we get something nice from the top deck? Maybe an Old Amber Aerodactyl, another one that we can play too. And then hopefully we can get a Fossil Excavation Kit from the Trainers Mail to get back the 2 Amber Aerodactyls and play them once more. That would be 4 Old Amber Aerodactyls in our first turn, which is close to an ideal start with this deck. We are up against Dunsparce. Look at that. There's a Dunsparce. My boy Dunsparce. Heyo, how are you doing? Wow, I was not expecting to see Dunsparce. What do we get? Yes, we get the Aerodactyl going with our first Old Amber. We even get a Muscle Band, but I will hold off on playing the Muscle Band for now. Buddy-Buddy Rescue. There is no point to getting the Buddy-Buddy Rescue. We don't have any Pokemon in our discard pile. So we will grab the teammates and then discard the teammates with our Sycamores, I think. Or possibly just Ultra Ball away the teammates and the Sycamore to grab a Shaymin and bench a Shaymin, draw into some more cards. You never know, we might actually be able to pull off an Archie in our first turn. We'll attach a Muscle Band, we'll attach a Float Stone as well, and then we'll bench the Shaymin, draw into 5 more cards, see what we can get. If we get a Battle Compressor, we can compress the Omastar, but we do not. We actually get... that's a bad hand. We'll have to discard our target whistle. Ah, how unfortunate. As well as an Aerodactyl. That was not a very nice Shaymin. An Omastar Carbink. I won't bench the Carbink. We don't know if my opponent plays any EX Pokemon just yet. Battle Compressor. Let's grab the Battle Compressor. It's tempting to go for the Old Amber Aerodactyl, but I think the Battle Compressor is a bit more important right now. And a Fossil Excavation Kit. We do not have any use for that right now, so we'll just compress. Probably going to compress one and... maybe not. We have the Sycamore in the discard pile. Kinda wanna discard this hand. We'll compress... oh, we only have one more Shuckle left. We'll compress a Battle Compressor and only one more Aerodactyl as well. We'll also compress the Archie. Is there anything else we need to compress or want to compress? No, we do have the 2 Super Rods, which is good. I think I'm gonna leave it at this for now. Alright, let's stick to this. And then let's end our turn, see what our opponent does with his Dunsparce. Is this a complete Dunsparce deck? That would be funny. But then I think that would be an easy game for us. An Ultra Ball. Oh, it's Night March. Night March with Dunsparce. Look at that. Dunsparce is finding his way into many decks. I love it. I love it. DCE onto the Dunsparce. Is he going to try to paralyze us? Bit of an odd choice to put that DCE if you're playing Night Marchers. But my opponent just wanted to draw into some more cards with the Shaymin. Try to thin out his hand by attaching that DCE. Seems to be stuck with a pretty bad hand, to be honest. Discards 1 Lampent, but we don't see anything else. And a second bite for 10 damage. Doesn't even try to paralyze us. I think he should have gone for the paralysis, to be honest. This is... if only we had a DCE for Aerodactyl, we could have Lysandre out that Shaymin. But we don't. So we are going to have to Sycamore our hand away. And probably take a knockout on the Dunsparce if we can find our DCE. Can we find our DCE? We do find a DCE. Another Old Amber. Fantastic. And there is our last Aerodactyl. I should have Battle Compressed first. That was a slight mistake. Thin out my deck a bit more. But it did manage to hit. I'm thinking here, do I go for the Fossil Excavation Kit? But there's no point to it. We are out of Aerodactyls, if I remember correctly. Let's take one more look at our deck. Yes, we are out of Aerodactyls. We are going to discard the Shuckle then. We are also going to discard some more cards. Do we need an Ultra Ball? We don't really need an Ultra Ball. We have an Ultra Ball in our hands. What else do we not need at this moment? I think that's good for now. So now it's time to retreat into our Aerodactyl and Jet draft for the knockout. Both discarding the DCE as well, but the Dunsparce got knocked out anyway, so there was no point to discarding that DCE. Another Ultra Ball. Kinda want to get a VS Seeker possibly to Lysandre around one of my opponent's Night Marchers. If he attaches to a Night Marcher, just attaches a DCE to the Shaymin. So we might see a Sky Return, which is unfortunate. Oh my goodness. My opponent had 2 VS Seekers in hand. I see now that my opponent had a bad hand indeed. I feel a little bit sorry for my opponent. It's not nice being stuck with bad hands. A Sky Return for 30 promotes the the Pumpkaboo. I thought my opponent might promote the Joltik. The Joltik hits for weakness. That's probably why my opponent kept the Joltik on the bench. We shall attach another DCE to our Aerodactyl. We can always knock out the Joltik with our Shuckle actually. If we need to, if we are desperate. There's nothing else we need to do. Jet Draft for the knockout on the Pumpkaboo. 140 damage. What do we get from the prizes? Another Aerodactyl. I might just hide a berry and shuffle that Aerodactyl in my deck with my Shuckle in the next turn. We're not really under pressure right now. Of course I won't do it if my opponent cannot find another basic. Then I will just knock out the Joltik and take the game. But if he does, I'm kind of tempted just to go for the hide a berry and possibly get out the Aerodactyl in the next turn. Because we need backup Aerodactyls on our bench. The one in the active spot is most likely going to go down. Joltik comes down. Yeah, if he knocks out this one and then we promote our other Aerodactyl, he can actually knock out this Aerodactyl and then we'll have to promote the Shuckle. Shuckle for hide a berry, but then the Shuckle is going to get knocked out and we have to promote our Shaymin, and we don't want to promote our Shaymin. So we have to go for the hide a berry right now. Find our, or put this Aerodactyl back on the bottom of our deck. If we can find a Super Rod in this turn, that would be fantastic as well. An Old Amber Aerodactyl. Well, I kind of regret having attached a DCE to my Aerodactyl now. I could have gone for a Sky Return here. So we'll have to go for the hide a berry and put this Aerodactyl on the bottom of our deck. There is a VS Seeker, so we can Lysandre out my opponent's Shaymin and take a couple more prizes that way, which we will do in the next turn for sure. Then we have to hope my opponent benches another Shaymin, since we cannot use our Target Whistle anymore. The Target Whistle is in a discard pile. Attaches to the Pumpkaboo. And an AZ on the Shaymin. Please bench it once more. Yes, he benches it again. Alright, as long as we don't see an end, we should be fine here to knock out that Shaymin in the next turn. And we definitely should be able to get out our other Aerodactyl. We can even shuffle back the one that's in the discard pile if we can find a Super Rod from the Trainers Mail, which I think we have a pretty big chance. There's 2 Super Rods in our deck. We have 14 cards in our deck. I think the chance is something like 30% maybe, I don't know. So let's look at the Trainers Mail. Can we get that Super Rod? No, we don't get it. We do get Skyfields. Might as well get that Skyfield out, thin out my deck a little bit. I cannot believe we didn't get the Super Rods. Luckily, the Old Amber hits, so another Aerodactyl comes down, hits the bench. We shall get the Lysandre out to Shaymin, take 2 more prizes, and in the next turn hopefully we can find our Super Rod. That's all we need for the next turn. So Jet Draft it is. Well, a Super Rod and a VS Seeker. If my opponent benches Shaymin, we want that VS Seeker. A Toad. Toads, it's too late for you, man. You're too late to the party. The party's already gotten started, big time. 2 prizes versus 4 prizes for my opponent. And oh no, a Zero-Sig. Discards our DCE. And now we need to dig for our other DCE. Oh, that Zero-Sig, that is huge. That Zero-Sig though. What a play from my opponent. That is trouble in paradise for us. Without that Zero-Sig we were looking really good. All of a sudden we are looking terrible. I could Sky Return here. Could do that. and I might just have to do it. Might just have to Sky Return. I will promote my Aerodactyl for now, see if we can find our DCE. If we do, I'm going to Sky Return. There is a DCE, so we are going to Sky Return, knock out the Joltik with a Sky Return. All we need to do in the turn after that is find a Lysandre for another Joltik and Sky Return once more. We also need to find another basic here, because our Aerodactyl is going to go down. Let's see, we have Sky Fields. I'm going to Ultra Ball away one Sky Field and one Energy. There's no Pokemon in our deck. Oh boy. We are stuck with a dead hand. A completely dead hand. So I might have to bench the Toad and hope we top deck a VS Seeker. I could promote the Toad and well, I can also attack with the Aerodactyl if you find an energy. If you find just one fighting energy, we have one more fighting energy somewhere. Did I just discard a fighting energy? I think I did. I should not have done that. I think I just discarded fighting energy. I might just have thrown away my key to success, because we could have gone for a bite on a Joltik with the Aerodactyl. I need to bench the Toad here. My opponent is hitting for 120 damage, 5 Night Marches in the discard pile. So I'm going to promote the Toad into the active spot. That is what I'm going to do. And hopefully the Toad is going to buy us some turns. Yes, that is going to be our play here. Sky Return for the knockout. Can we get anything nice from the prizes? This way we also preserve our DCE. We get an N. N is good. N is definitely good. So let's promote the Toad. Do we have our Escape Rope? I think the Escape Rope is in our deck. We can always Escape Rope and then attack with our Aerodactyl. This is going to be such an important turn right here. The next turn is going to be so very important. If we end, we bring ourselves down to 1 card. But we also bring my opponent down to 2 cards. The end can be clutch for us, or the end can screw us over. But before we go for the end, I will for sure go for the Shaymin. Lysandre onto our Aerodactyl. Are you freaking kidding me? He's going to Lysandre out our Aerodactyl. And then we are stuck with the Toad in the active spot without any Pokemon to attack. The Pumpkaboo in the active spot. We could item lock our opponent. We could put a DC on the Toad. Item lock our opponents, because our opponent is not hitting us for a 1-hit KO. And that would force our opponent to retreat. That would force him to retreat. But if we find a Lysandre from the Shaymin, that would be sufficient as well to take the game. So we have several outs here. I will discard my N, I think. Attach this Muscle Band to the Toad. Discard the Stadium and the N. Maybe the Fossil Excavation Kit. No, the Fossil Excavation Kit can be a clutch card as well. We could find a Super Rod and then shuffle them back, use our Fossil Excavation Kit, get one out, and then use our Escape Rope. So I'm going to discard the Stadium as well as the N. Oh no, don't tell me we are disconnecting. Oh, I thought we were disconnecting for a moment. Yes, we don't have any Pokemon in our deck. Then we shall bench our N for 4 cards. Hopefully the 4 cards that we need. An Energy Escape Rope. Escape Rope is not what we need. We do have the Super Rod, so we are going to shuffle back our Aerodactyls into our deck. And here is the clutch. The clutch is coming in. Old Amber from the discard pile. There is no way we won't hit any of these unless my Aerodactyl is the 8th card. But there it is already. And there we have the Escape Rope for the win against Night March. This is it. We managed to take the game against Night March with Aerodactyl. It is actually a pretty darn nice deck. I'm not gonna lie, it is fun to play, and as long as you are not item locked, you can have some pretty amazing games with this deck. And it's actually quite consistent, surprisingly enough. I haven't had a single game so far where I couldn't get out an Aerodactyl in time. But I haven't played against item lock just yet. Against item lock, it will be a whole different story. because there we cannot use our Old Ambers, so we need to rely on getting an Archie with our Omastar in our first turn. And that's it, victory against Night March. Fantastic game right here. Loving it big time. That was a fantastic game indeed. 550 damage dealt versus 660 from my opponent. Aerodactyl MVP versus a Joltig. Let's see if we can find ourselves another opponent. Our next opponent is going to be SKKOTH, a Scoth with a colorless and a darkness deck. That is going to be an interesting battle. We get to go first. We will go first. See if we can get some Aerodactyls going. We should be able to, at least in our first or second turn. At least in the second turn. Possibly in our first turn. That's how I should say it. We have a really good hand. This could actually be a hand that might allow us to pull off the Archie. For now, we'll click done. We need an Ultra Ball though. We need an Ultra Ball. That's not what we needed to see. We could possibly find an Ultra Ball from the Trainers Mail. I'm going to discard some cards first with my Battle Compressor. We will discard the Omastar if it is in our deck. It is in our deck. We'll also discard the Archie. And then, what else are we going to discard? We are up against Zoroark. I could discard the Hex Maniac. So we can use the Hex Maniac against Zoroark. Yes, Teammates is a good option as well. You never know, we could always Teammates to get something nice into our hand if our Shuckle goes down. Then we'll take a look at the Trainers Mail. No Ultra Ball, no Ultra Ball. Escape Rope, but I don't need it right now. We are going to attach to our Shuckle. We will look at the Old Amber Aerodactyl, and we do get an Aerodactyl. The first Aerodactyl of this game right there. Then let's bench our Shaymin, trying to find some more Old Ambers to use. And we do get another one, as well as a Shuckle. This one fails. So I'm going to reshuffle my hands. That is not a very good hand. That is not a hand that will allow us to pull off an Archie. A DCE, not bad, but we have that Aerodactyl there as well, and that is not good. Float Stone or Escape Rope. I think I'll prefer the Float Stone, so we can knock out the Zoroark. For now, we'll end our turn. It would have been nice to get an Old Amber. Oh, we actually have two Old Ambers in the discard pile, I forgot. So we'll Fossil Excavation Kit, try to get some more Aerodactyls right here. Can we get another one? This one fails. And this one fails as well. We have one more Fossil Excavation Kit in the deck, I already noticed. So let's end our turn and let's see what our opponent can do. Can he find another basic? If he cannot, it is going to be GG in the next turn. A bit unfortunate that we have two DCs right there. There's a Lugia, but Lugia will not be able to hit hard on us unless we see a double DCE on the Lugia. Discards an Umbreon, there's a Darkrai. This is Darkness and Colorless typing. Hopefully my opponent plays DCEs so we can discard them with our Aerodactyl. Hopefully my opponent plays Shaymin as well. There is Shaymin, yes. We will be able to Lysandre out some Shaymins here. Maybe we can even top deck a Shaymin, a Lysandre in the next turn. I had a Lysandre in my hand before, but I shuffled them back into my deck. Trainers Mail, probably looking for a Float Stone or a Max Elixir onto the Darkrai. Fighting Fury Belts gives Darkrai 220 HP, but we are hitting for 240 with a 2-hit knockout, so it doesn't really matter. And a Muscle Band on the Zoroark. Will my opponent retreat to the Zoroark? Oh, and the Stadium to increase the damage output. And there is a Sycamore as well. Pretty nice turn. Oh, this guy's a DCE. That's one less DCE for my opponents. A Max Elixir will probably hit, if I were to guess. And it looks like it did, but I'm not sure. Yeah, there it is. That's one more energy on the field. The Darkrai is now hitting for 60 damage, so it's already pretty scary. An Ultra Ball could go for another Shaymin. The more Shaymins, the better. For sure. But then we need to make good use of our DCEs. Retreats into the Darkrai. And we'll just see a pass of the turn. That is interesting. Retreats into the Darkrai. Oh no, another energy. I'm going to attach to my Aerodactyl. I will attach to the Shuckle as well. And do I then... Am I just going to attack here? My opponent's... What does my opponent need to knock us out? 120... 5 energies, 5 dark energies on the field to hit for 120 damage. Actually 130 with the Fighting Fury Belt. That should not be possible for my opponent. So I will retreat, and I'm not going to Sycamore just yet. I'm just going to hit for the Jet Draft for now. For 120. On this Darkrai, put a lot of pressure on my opponent here. If my opponent gets out a Zoroark, my opponent only hits for 70 damage. 90 damage with the Muscle Band, that is not a knockout. Float Stone on the Lugia. So I think we have a knockout here, unless my opponent retreats the Darkrai. But then we can put some damage on something else. So I think it was wise not to discard the DCE. Our DCEs are very precious. We don't have any ways of retrieving them. In the new Steam Siege set, there is going to be a card which allows you to shuffle back 2 special energies from your discard pile into your deck. And that is just fantastic. That is what this deck needs. That will make this deck so much better. There is a DCE, which means this Darkrai hits for 90 damage. What was that? Ultra Ball for possibly a Shaymin, gets a Zoroark. So we'll get hit for 90 damage, but we will reply for the knockout. And an N, oh no. Our DCE is going to be shuffled back into our deck. Actually, it's not too bad, I kinda don't mind. 2 VN Seekers, do we have a draw supporter? We have an N ourselves. Maybe I could actually pull off the Archie here. I think I can. I think this hand allows me to pull off the Archie. We get hit for 100 damage. Why is it 100? Fighting Fury Belt. Oh, because of the stadium. Alright. Oh no. Another energy. What's with all these energies today? And let's see here. We can counter the stadium. We can discard 1 energy and a VS Seeker and get out nothing. Possibly a Carbink. Might get out a Carbink. I think I will get out a Carbink. So let's counter the stadium first. And then let's... maybe we should go for the Fossil Excavation Kit first. Yes, let's go for that first. Before we do anything else. See if we can get some more Aerodactyls with the Fossil Excavation Kit. And then we can attach this DCE to an Aerodactyl instead of the Shaymin. And no, we fail. Oh boy, not much luck for us today here. So we will have to attach this DCE to the Shaymin. And discard 1 energy and the VS Seeker. We will grab the Carbink. And then we shall also Archie the Omastar onto our bench. And hopefully get out some Aerodactyls with our Omastar. Look at that, there is the Archie. Amazing stuff. Unfortunately, our Aerodactyl will have to go down in the next turn. Because we don't have another one ready to go that we can retreat into. Seismitoad's Battle Compressor. Let's first use the Restoring Beam, get an Aerodactyl on our bench. There's 2 more in our deck, so a little bit unlucky there with our Old Ambers in this game. And then we'll Battle Compress, thin out our deck a bit. We have 2 more DCEs. We don't really need the Old Ambers right now, but I'll leave them in the deck. Because you never know, my opponent might just do something incredibly annoying and knock out our Omastar. Let's see. Let's discard. No, I'm gonna keep the Shaymin. We don't need a Shuckle. We don't need an Ultra Ball. And I might just as well discard 1 Lysandre. How many VS Seekers do we have left? Only 1 more. No, let's keep the Lysandre in the deck. Target Whistle. I'm gonna discard the Teammates, so we can grab the Teammates in the next turn. Yeah, I think that's a good play. And we shall hit for the knockout right here. Do I need the Super Rod? I don't really need the Super Rod. Knockout on the Darkrai, leaving my opponent without any attackers except for the Zoroark. But our Aerodactyl is already very damaged, so we don't mind it getting knocked out. An Ultra Ball with which we can get our Shaymin out. Probably going to discard the Seismitoad and the Escape Rope. maybe the Aerodactyl, and then Super Rod's back the Aerodactyl, so we can draw into some more cards with our Shaymin. I want to Lysandre out a Shaymin in the next turn. That's what I want to do. If I can get a DCE from the Shaymin ourselves, I want to Lysandre out my opponent's Shaymin. And now I kind of regret not discarding the Lysandre with my Battle Compressor. Interesting choice for my opponent to go for the Lugia. Counters the Stadium. Now we cannot go for our Shaymin. There goes our strategy down the drain. How unfortunate. I might just have to promote my Shaymin and go for a Sky Return via Seeker. Grabs an N. And there's an N for my opponent. Doesn't matter. We get Ns. Can we get a DCE and a via Seeker? That's all we need. DCE and a via Seeker. We know we have the target whistle. No DCE. We do get a Shaymin. We can bench our Shaymin actually. Our strategy is still viable because our Aerodactyl is going to get knocked out. I forgot. We are going to have one more spot on our bench here. Because the Aerodactyl is going to get knocked out. All we need is that DCE then. And no, we still need the Lysandre as well. We have the Trainers Mail to look for the Lysandre. But we don't have anything else to look for the DCE. Trainers Mail. So my opponent is powering up his Darkrai right now. Another Max Elixir. That is the third one this turn, I think. Yeah, for sure. He already attached 2 Darkness Energies. Will this third one hit off as well? Probably will, because my opponent is down to 13 cards. Doesn't really have too many energies in the discard pile. 3 and 2 DCEs. And there it is, just like that. The Darkrai is powered up. It could actually come out and hit us instead of the Lugia. And it does come out. All of a sudden, the tables have turned. That one turn was pretty big for my opponent. I will promote my Shuckle. Because it has a Float Stone attached to it. Could also promote my Aerodactyl. What do we get from the top deck? Muscle Band. Let's first take a look at this Trainers Mail. Lysandre. I'll take the Lysandre. But then the question is, what else are we going to do? I'm going to attach the Muscle Bands to my Aerodactyl. And I will bench my Shaymin, look for the DCE. Can we get the DCE? Yes, we do get the DCE. Amazing. This is going to be a knockout on Shaymin. And I think we also saw the target whistle before. I'm not going to get it out with the Trainers Mail right now, or try to get it out. I'm going to wait until the next turn. We shall Lysandre out at Shaymin and get a knockout. Bring ourselves close to the win here. Yes, this is a knockout on the Shaymin. Take 2 more prizes. Hopefully it's going to be something useful from the prizes here. What can we get? Shuckle and the Battle Compressor. Battle Compressor is useful, for sure. I like the Battle Compressor. Brings up the Lugia. Can my opponent find a DCE for the Lugia? He has one more DCE somewhere. Unless he only plays 3 DCEs, or unless 1 DCE is prized. Right now the Darkrai does not hit for the KO, it only hits for 80 damage. Zoroark does hit for the KO but needs the DCE, so my opponent needs to find the last DCE. Could go for Sycamore here, bring himself down to 4 cards, but then he might take himself out before he can get enough KOs. How many Lysandres has my opponent used? There is a DCE, my opponent had the DCE in hand. That's amazing. My opponent had the DCE in hand. What is that? An N. No! Our opponent is going to end us. Well, I might just have to promote the Carbink then. I might just have to promote the Carbink. And try to wait it out. Target Whistle is good. We can Target Whistle the Shaymin. We get an N. So we have a little bit of draw support. And an Air Ball for the knockout for 120 damage. Does not decide to go for the Deep Hurricane. Just enough with that Aerial Ball. So we have several things we can do. We can stall with the Carbink. Probably going to promote the Shaymin, to be honest. Well, let's promote the Shuckle first, because it's got free retreat. And then we can always Sky Return with the Shaymin. Get the DCE back into our hands. And get another Aerodactyl going. I was going to look. My opponent has used 2 Via Seekers, so could grab 2 more Lysandres. Lysandre out our Shaymins. So I need to get those Shaymins off my bench here if I want to stand a chance at winning this game. We will for sure target whistle right now. Target whistle the Shaymin onto my opponent's bench. We could go for a Lysandre on that Shaymin here, but we don't have a DCE for an Aerodactyl. That's the only problem we have right now. We will get one onto our bench, and then I think we will sit on our hand, wait for the next turn, make it seem like we have a bad hand here to our opponents. And then next turn is going to be game unless my opponent picks up that Shaymin. So we shall retreat into our own Shaymin, hit for the Sky Return, and then probably just promote the Carbink. Am I going to promote the Carbink? Maybe not, because then we need to retreat the Carbink somehow in the next turn. I could promote my Shuckle, but I think instead I'm going to promote my Aerodactyl, because my opponent cannot knock out our Aerodactyl in any way right now. It is risky, but we have one more Aerodactyl in our deck, and unless we top deck it, we can get it out with our Omastar. So I'm promoting my Aerodactyl here with the free retreat. Now my opponent needs another DCE for the Lugia to knock us out, which he does not have. He needs 2 more Darkness Energies, which he does not have either, I think. He might only play 6 Darkness Energies. There is an Energy Switch. Wow, actually has a Darkness Energy in hand and an Energy Switch. I think, yeah, this is going to be a knockout on our Aerodactyl then. And another Energy Switch. That is clutch from our opponent. So it is going to be a knockout on our Aerodactyl for 140 damage. How unfortunate. Now we need to hope we don't top deck our Aerodactyl. Fighting Fury Belt on the Darkrai, that's okay. We still have a shot at the game in the next turn. And a Fighting Fury Belt on a Darkrai. Maybe I should have just promoted my Shuckle and accepted that I would lose the free retreat from the Shuckle. 160, 120, 130, 150, 160, yeah, the stadium. That stadium always gets me. Please, no top deck from the Aerodactyl. Please, please, please. Okay, no top deck there. So we shall get out our Aerodactyl and we shall take the game right here. That is how it's done. That is the Shaymin strategy in action right there with Aerodactyl via Seeker for the Shaymin that we target whistled. Amazing stuff. Wow. The gamble paid off right here. Free retreat from the Shuckle into the Aerodactyl and a Jet draft for the knockout. Props to my opponent for letting us take this knockout and close out the game. Take our last 2 prizes. 6 prizes versus 3 prizes in versus a Darkrai, Zoroark and Lugia deck. I think that is not bad for a fossil deck like Aerodactyl. I think that is pretty darn good, to be honest. Man, I'm pretty happy here. I can't complain. I'm not sure if I will go for another match. Let's first take a look at the stats. 530 damage versus 470 from my opponent. Aerodactyl MVP versus Zoroark. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to go for another match. If I am not going to go for another match, I will probably leave it here, or I might just put the other match in a bonus video. Maybe let's do it this way. Leave a like if you want to see another match, and if there is a sufficient amount of likes, I will put out another match with the Aerodactyl deck. For now, I will call it a day here. I hope you have a truly Karptastic day, and I will see you next time with another episode.
Karp, 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 Karp.